Part 3. There we go. That's better. Ah, Gina, how are you holding up? I'm starting to feel quite warmly toward her frequent cold shoulders now. Ginny! Are you alright? Why aren't you saying anything? What's the point, eh? Why go to all this trouble and fight so hard for the likes of me? What? Well, you saw it, that picture. What picture? You mean this. The photograph taken by Hurley's red-handed recorder. It only shows part of it. It doesn't show all of it. I would have captured a scene like this. That's for sure. It's hopeless. Anyone who sees that's gonna think I did it, ain't they? Well, I won't pretend it wasn't a bit of a shock when the prosecution first presented it to the court. Sure, you've got to have your doubts about me now. You can't still think I'm innocent. Of course I can. Ginny, why don't you talk to us? Tell us what really happened that night. Hi! Bruno's cleverly managed to piece together a knot of new information, but still, we'd really like to hear it from you. Alright then. It was after we had that dinner together at your place, right, Iris? And we all had a chat up in your office, didn't we? Yeah, I remember. After that, I just couldn't get to sleep. So I slipped out and went down the street to the 2-to-1. To Winterplank's place. I had to know. If our story was there or not. The Hound of the Baskervilles. I don't know what it's about or nothing. But if you ask me, there's something in that Sholmes doesn't like. Something what he don't want people reading. So that's why he lied to Iris about sticking it low with Winterbank for safekeeping. At least that's what I thought at the time. So you broke into Winterbank's. I just had to know if it were there or not. I mean, I had no idea all of that was going to kick off, did I? I struck the lock and snuck back inside. It was dark as you like in there, so I gave the oil lamp on the counter a bit of wick. And that's when... What do you think you're doing? Ah! I nearly died, I did. The next thing I knew... I grabbed the gun off the counter and was waving it in the air like I don't know what. Ah, you're the girl who was in here this afternoon. I didn't think pickpockets went in for armed robbery. The mental script. Have you got it here? The chums leave a papers with you. A story. I beg your pardon. Under the something or other. If it's there, I want to see it. I'm so sorry, young lady, but I'd sooner die than relinquish an article belonging to one of my customers. I don't want it. What will I do with it anyway? I just want to see it's there. That's all. Oh, you want to see it, do you? I want to know if Shums really pawned it here or not. Please, just let me see it and I'll go. Oh, very well then. But for pity's sake, stop waving my gun around, would you? So then the old cove unlocked the storeroom door and we both went inside. And it was there alright, the mental script. Shums went lying after all. You did all that just to check for me, Ginny? Anyway, then there was a bit of a kick-up outside the main bit of the shop. The Skulkin brothers arriving on the scene, yes? What was that noise? Someone's breaking in! Dear me, is there some burglars convention here tonight I don't know about? I think I forgot to shut the door behind me. Sorry. I better go and take care of it. Could I possibly have my gun back? Oh well, I'll come with you and... Now don't be foolish, young girl. You must stay right here. Don't leave this room under any circumstances. And with that, he took the gun out of my hands and walked back into the shop. I'm back in the storeroom, like he said, straining my ears in the dark to hear what was going on. It sounded like they got into a bit of a scrap. I started to think I should help see. So I was just about to go out the storeroom myself when... bang, bang! I heard a couple shots go off. 2, I think. Almost at the same time. And there we was, right at me feet, lying down on the floor. I was right next to the storeroom door, so I slammed it shut and knocked it quick as you like. 'Cause you thought whoever had shot Mr. Winterbang might come for you? Yeah, so I went to grab the old cove's gun. I figured he'd put up a fight at least. But when I got a better look at him, I knew. Winterbang was a goner. I felt funny in me head all of a sudden, kind of dizzy. And after that, I remember Muffin. That must be when you passed out, Gina. If I hadn't done what I'd done, that cove might still be alive. Did you tell the police everything you told us? Of course I did, but they didn't believe a word of it, did they? All they said was if I kept telling lies, I'd make things even worse for me. It'll be alright, Ginny. Don't worry. Just stay strong a little longer. Bruno's about to beat the real culprit through the mill. That cove what was there in the afternoon? That Eggert Benedict? I still remember how he looked at me, like I was nothing. He was there that night. We don't know his real name yet, but I'm convinced he's involved somehow. Anyway, thank you for telling us what happened, Gina. I appreciate your honesty. You what? You can leave it all in Bruno's capable hands now, Ginny. Mr. Naruto. Yes? How come you trust me? I don't get it. I mean, have you forgotten what happened there before? Come on, it was only 2 months ago. Me and McGill did. We told you a whole pack of lies. And you put the bog trotter off with him, even though he was the killer. No, I could never forget that. Oh, I did what I thought was best at the time. But the pain of that error of judgment doesn't get any easier to bear. Still, don't forget that I also made you a promise. I told you I'd be on your side to the bitter end, no matter what. But what if I'm lying? You could be working to get another killer off the hook for all you know. I was once in your position, Gina. I was the accused in trial. You were? Before I left Japan, I was accused of murder. And strange as it might sound, the circumstances of the crime were pretty damning. I was sure no one would believe it wasn't me who done it. Oh, Runo. But there was one person who stood up for me, who believed in me, and was prepared to defend me. My best friend. Runosuke, no one believes in you more than I do. Leave this to me. All you need to do is put your faith in me and I'll do the rest. I was so happy I cried. But even then, somewhere inside of me I couldn't help thinking, surely he doesn't really believe in me. Not completely. But I was wrong. As soon as my trial began, it was obvious. We were going to need a new defendant's bench. That he had an absolute, unwavering belief in me. And in turn, I developed an absolute, unwavering belief in him. Since then, I came to realize, if you want someone to believe in you, you have to believe in the other person first. What are you saying? I promise you, Gina, that no matter what happens, I'll keep believing in you. So you don't need to worry. I won't let you down. Even though I'm a diver and a no good liar. You're not like McGilded. I know that. Hi. That's right. You're our friend, Jeannie. I'm Brace. We know you better than you think. And we've come to the conclusion you're someone we can trust. Yes. That's really all we need to know. Exactly. Mr. Nariodo, I... Defendant Gina Lestrade and her legal representative. Court proceedings are about to resume. Please head to the courtroom immediately. Yes, of course. Thank you. I've been both a defendant and a defending lawyer in my time, so I knew only too well just how hard it was to pull all your faith in another. And I also knew just how hard it was to bear the burden of another putting all their faith in you. This is at last the final chapter, the final battle. Wish me luck, Susato-san. I hope you're watching over me too, partner. I hereby call this court to order as we resume the trial of Miss Gina Lestrade. Lord Van Zieks, have you successfully subpoenaed the witness? The subpoena was delivered to the communication station where the man works immediately, my lord. However, the heavy rain has delayed the arrival of his carriage, it would seem. I see. And let us turn our attention to Inspector Gregson's proceedings of the case heard by the court this morning. The glaring omission of this third bullet in your report is a serious blunder, Inspector. Yes, I can only apologize, my lord. And although the defense's chemical analysis of the blood at the scene makes for a compelling argument, I cannot permit such untried methods to be used as evidence in my courtroom. It's a big mistake to cross Hurley and me. A very big mistake. My lord, a subpoenaed witness has just arrived in the building. Thank you, officer. Show him to the stand without delay. Mr. Edgar Benedict. I didn't expect to be crossing paths with him again so soon, and certainly not like this. All four of them now. Thank you for complying with the court subpoena at short notice, sir. But of course, my lord, as an upstanding member of London society, it is my pleasure to oblige. Now, kindly state your name and occupation for the record. Ashley Graydon, Communications Officer. Your name is Ashley? Wow. Mr. Graydon and I both work at London's Central Communications Station. Now perhaps somebody would kindly explain what all this is about. You were apprised of the situation by the court officer on your way here, I presume. Yes, I was. Something to do with a murder that took place at a pawnbroker's on Baker Street. And some nonsense about me having been there on the night in question. That is the accusation, indeed. This really is beyond a joke, you know. Very well. Without further delay, the court will hear your testimony now, Mr. Graydon. You will respond to the accusation made against you under oath. Gladly, my lord. Gladly. The accusation. Naturally, I have occasion to make use of a pawnbroking service from time to time. But are you seriously suggesting I colluded with these thugs to break into the place on the night of the murder? I have no intention of admitting to such an outrageous accusation. Even if certain parties of present complain that my blood was found at the scene. Some scaramouche detective's homebrewed tincture can be hardly taken as serious evidence. So, you deny the accusation completely, do you? I must say, I am dismayed. For the highest court in the land to be swayed by this self-professed detective's toy. It was the will of the jury, and our great British justice system demands the jury's will is upheld. Then it would seem we have the misfortune of a most inept assembly of jurors today. Oh, that's gonna get you on the juror's side, that's for sure. Insult the jury. By golly! How long am I expected to be detained here? If following the defense's cross-examination your involvement in this matter has not been established, you will be free to leave immediately. Good, then I shall be away in time for afternoon tea. Some small consolation, at least. Let us not hold up Mr. Graydon any longer than necessary. Counsel, proceed with the cross-examination. So we meet again, Mr. Egbert Benedict. Or is it Mr. Graydon? My apologies, you are? Runosuke Naruhodo, defense lawyer. We've met. If you say so. Ashley Graydon. Enchanté. So. Oh, there's the Frank Sott moment. I trust we can conclude this quickly. I'm not holding your flashy hat while we do so. Hey, look at it this way. Your descendant got a face full of toupee. A face full of hat is better than a face full of toupee. At least there ain't hell to pay on this one. Alrighty. Next. 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 What do you got to say? Blood was found at the scene of the crime. There's no question of that. Mr. Sholm's chemical analysis has positively identified the substance as such. But I am not the only human to have blood running through my veins, am I? How can you be so sure the blood is mine? It would equally be the blood of one of these two miscreants. Every individual's blood is slightly different composition, it seems. Mr. Sholm's chemical is able to differentiate the different blood cells. Spare me the science lesson! Who is this Sholm's character, anyway? Oh, I assumed all Londoners would know the name. He's a renowned detective. So even you are unable to bring yourself to say, great detective. A great detective, you say? Now we're in the realm of fairy tales, are we? Oh, what do you say? Do you have something to say about that, Mr. Skulkin? What, me? No, the other Mr. Skulkin. What, I've had it up to here with this. How many times have I got to tell you? Yes, I know, you're not Big Bruv Skulky. The green one, Mr. Nash Skulkin. Aye, call blimey, Governor. You what? Is it not the case that when Mr. Graydon just spoke, a thought went through your mind? Would you care to share that thought with the court? Me thoughts? I didn't have none of them. It must have been him. You what? Mr. Nash Skulkin, answer the question, please. What went through your mind when Mr. Graydon was just spoke? Nothing, honestly, nothing. I was just thinking, if we waves his arm around like that much more, it'll open up the wound again. That's all. What wound? Where he took the bullet, of course. It was only 2 days ago. It ain't gonna be healed up yet. So I was, I was worrying for him and... Oh, well, bells. Mr. Graydon, did you hear that? What? Your comrade is worried about you, it seems. On account of your injured arm. My lord. Yes, Mr. Graydon. I have no idea what these two wretches are talking about. Certainly, I shouldn't be expected to answer anything in relation to their mindless insinuations. We know that someone other than the victim was hit by a bullet at the scene of the crime 2 nights ago. And from the height of the bullet hole, that person was most likely hit in the upper arm, or thereabouts. Perhaps you'd allow a court official to examine your arm, sir? The left arm that you're currently clasping with your right hand, as if in pain? Jeez. This is Manfred von Karma all over again. No, I refuse. You have shown no evidence whatsoever that links me to these common thieves. Are you really going to Quercus Alba your way through this? I'm not obliged to permit any such invasion of my privacy. I've already said I'm completely uninvolved in all this. I've never had anything to do with the pawnbrokery where this fellow was killed whatsoever. I take offense to the insinuation that I was in any way involved. You claim to have nothing whatsoever to do with Mr. Windibank's pawnbrokery? I don't think so. The defense would like that last statement to be added to Mr. Graydon's formal testimony. Very well, counsel. Continue with your testimony, Mr. Graydon. Excuse me. The bottom line is I've never had anything to do with the pawnbroking establishment where the man was killed. I don't think so. Never had anything to do with it. You forget that I was there, Mr. Graydon, on the very afternoon of the incident. Obviously, I'm not a complete stranger to the pawnbrokers. I'm currently on the lookout for an armchair to furnish my study. No, you were there to redeem an article. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Excuse me.
You have something to add, Inspector? Aye, come again, sunshine? You were there too, in fact, weren't you, Inspector? That afternoon. Well, yes, I do remember meeting yourself in the pawnbrokers that afternoon. You, your young Japanese assistant, and the accused were all present, as I was recalled. And at that time, this witness, Mr. Graydon, was trying to acquire a particular article. I'm well now. I'm afraid I don't remember too clearly. What? You must! I'm not going to lie and pretend I remember something I don't. What's going on here? Gregsy showed us a picture before, didn't he? You know, from the cameras that Hurley installed in Windibank's. Indeed, and the gentleman pictured bears a striking resemblance to the witness, I must say. Exactly, which proves Mr. Graydon was in the shop on the afternoon in question. At no point have I denied that fact. I merely entered the shop to peruse the articles on sale and have a word with the broker. Nothing more. You're hiding something. Why wouldn't Gregson be trying to avoid giving testimony about what happened? That's all he's going to say on the matter, is it? What do you think, Bruno? I think he's no intention of telling us anything. He's well aware the less he says, the less chance he has of giving himself away. A complete opposite of Hurley, then. He seems to think the more he says, the better. Well, at least I managed to prise a little more information from these witnesses' lips. All thanks to the Skulkin brothers. They were the key to it after all. Toby says he had nothing to do with the Windibanks. Well, we know that's not true. Time for some evidence. Alrighty.
Objection.
Oh, come on. I see your trembling hand. Oh, did I friggin... What the hell? Hang on. Let's try this again. Number 5. Should do it. Okay, I pressed it on the wrong one. Have you ever seen this disc before, Mr. Graydon? Why? Is it supposed to mean something? The disc was, until the day of the murder, in pawn in Mr. Windibank's shop. It was redeemed by the defendant, Miss Gina Lestrade, that afternoon. However, somebody mysteriously appeared to try and take it from her. And that somebody was you, of course. Wasn't it, Mr. Graydon? As I have reiterated numerous times now, you are mistaken. That was not me. I've never seen that disc before in my life. It may have escaped your notice, but there is a small smear of blood on the disc. Ah yes, resulting from an abrasion of the thumb, perhaps. That's right. The surface of the disc is covered in hundreds of tiny metal bumps. In the skirmish to acquire the disc, the thumb of the person who tried to take it suffered minor lacerations. So, while the disc bears remnants of that skirmish in the form of this smear of blood, the thumb of the person in question must bear the remnants also, in the form of a scratch. Good gracious! Indeed it must. Mr. Graydon, you refused to allow a court officer to examine your arm before. Are you now going to refuse to allow us to examine your thumb? Because I have no doubt that it bears a small scratch consistent with the smear of blood on this disc. Well. You would seem I underestimated you. What is the meaning of this? So you admit it now. You admit you have a scratch on your thumb from when you attempted to take the disc from the defendant. Order! Order! Well, Mr. Graydon? It would appear there has been something of a misunderstanding here. I did not attempt to take the disc, as you put it. No, quite the reverse. What are you trying to say? It's really quite simple, you see. The disc was mine from the outset. Is this some crime in taking an item you own out of pawn? What? It would seem, Mr. Graydon, that in this piece of evidence, my learned friend has established a link between yourself and the incident. Accordingly, you will tell the court everything you know about this disc, now. As you wish, though I'm quite sure it has nothing whatsoever to do with the pawnbroker's murder. Oh, I don't think so. There's a note on the disc saying from McGilded, but the item belongs to me. The redemption ticket was stolen from me by the accused, that filthy gutterling, on the day in question. I proceeded at once to the shop in order to explain my situation and redeem my article. In the end, of course, the disc was taken by the police. In other words, I had absolutely no reason to break into the shop later that same night. Oh, I don't think so. You're hiding something. I hear you correctly, sir. McGilded, you say? The famous London philanthropist? An utter liar. Who perished in this very courtroom 2 months after being acquitted of a distinctly messy murder. Yes, my lord, the one and the same. Good lord, Mr. Graydon. Are you saying Mr. McGilded and yourself were acquainted? Yes, that's correct. I certainly didn't expect to hear that name uttered here in my courtroom again. According to what Gina told us, this disc was placed in pawn on that fateful night 2 months ago. McGilded himself gave instructions to deposit it at Windibanks. It's funny Mr. Grayton here is claiming the disc belongs to him then, isn't it? In all likelihood, he's lying. Well, let's see what that disc has something. You'll commence your cross-examination, please. Two, 3, 4. Let's see what you've got here.
Hold it!
Yes, it was taken by the Inspector Gregson here, wasn't it? That's right. It was this very man. Apparently, the police are collecting anything that has a connection to Mr. McGilded as evidence.
Excuse me.
Is something wrong, Inspector? What do you mean? The last remark Mr. Grayton said in his testimony seemed to trouble you in some way. No, it didn't. It's nothing. Leave it alone. Let me ask you this, Inspector. Why is Scotland Yard gathering Mr. McGilded's possessions? I can't tell you something like that, Sunshine. What is it, Inspector? Investigative secrets? Yes, exactly. You should know all about that. Magnus McGilded, who died so unexpectedly after his trial 2 months ago. A man renowned throughout the capital for his great contributions to public life. Yet he had a dark side too. Where are you going with this, Vinzies? I suppose the police are dealing with the aftermath of his nefarious activities, are they? That's enough! Couples like me have duties to carry out that we're not at liberty to talk about. That's all you need to know. Are you secret police? Duties conferred by Lord Strongheart, I presume. The Lord Chief Justice appears to have great faith in you, Inspector. The bottom line is, if you want to get more out of me, you're gonna need Lord Strongheart's paw print first. What's all this about? It's like there's something going on between Gregson and Lord Vinzies here. Well, it would appear that the Inspector has revealed all he is at liberty to reveal. Mr. Grayton, let us return to your testimony. Gladly, my lord. In other words, I had absolutely no reason to break into. Oh, I don't think so! No. Box!
Objection.
The disc was deposited at Windibanks at Magnus McGilded's instructions. You knew that, and you went there with the intention of obtaining it for yourself.
Objection.
Conjecture again, and in any case, the disc was taken into custody by the police that afternoon. The witness had no reason to visit the pawnbroker again last night.
Objection.
Sorry, my learned friend, but that's not true. Turn it around! What? Mr. McGilded had another article in pawn at Windibanks. As this, the second pawnbroker's ticket proves. There were 2 articles belonging to McGilded in the Windibanks pawnbrokery, and the reason you broke into the shop that night was to recover the second one. Together with your 2 accomplices, the Skulkin brothers. This is the second ticket, is it? What is the man disposited? The article described reads, 1 small box. A rather vague description, it seems to me. Are you suggesting I broke into the pawnbroker with these clowns in order to steal some trinket box? I believe there are adequate grounds to suspect you did. This is absurd! Why on earth would I do such a thing? Once the article had been forfeited, I could simply walk into the shop and purchase it. There would be absolutely no need for me to resort to theft. That's a good point. Indeed. The witness makes a solid argument. So that means that for some reason, this Graydon fellow needed the small box that very night, does it?
Objection!
It's time to put an end to this nonsense, my lord. Could you be a little less cryptic, Lord Van Zieks? I do hate to ruin my learned friend's argument, but the truth is quite incontrovertible. On the night in question, no small box was taken from Windibank's pawnbrokery. And rest assured, the prosecution can prove it. What? Good gracious! Inspector, show the photographic prints to the court, if you please. Yes, sir. These prints were taken from one of the detective's security cameras. Alrighty, here we go. Another stereograph. Blah, blah, blah. Two different locations. One was to set the counter where Mr. Windibank received his customers, the other at the shelves. According to the information on this ticket, McGilded's small box had been forfeited already. 2 days before the incident, at 9 p.m. on 13th April to be precise. Which means it would have been on the shelves of the forfeited items in the pawn shop. Now what I have here is print taken by one of the cameras about 2 hours before the incident. That's at 11 p.m. A very full shop. And then here we have another print. One was taken about 2 hours after the incident. I see. We have 2 pictures to compare. You gotta use the stereoscope. That's starting to make my head ache. Obviously, a Scotland Yard would consider theft as one possible motive in this case. Explore the possibility of something had been taken in addition to the victim's life. So you men have already compared these 2 prints thoroughly, Inspector. Yes, sir. You haven't done it stereoscopically. And the Yard's conclusion is that exactly the same number are present in both. In other words, nothing was taken from the pawnbrokery on the night in question, and my learned friend's assertion is nothing more than a hopeful fantasy. Ah, ow! I don't believe it. If I could have just shown that he'd stolen McGill's pawn box. I might have been able to break him down at last. You know what, Runo? I've been thinking. One of these are really the same. So, counsel, in the light of the evidence put forward by the prosecution, what is your position? It seems, in fact, on the night in question, nothing was stolen from the victim's establishment. Do you accept the prosecution's assertion? Use a piece of evidence. I'd like to try something, if I may. Try something? What do you mean, counsel? I'll need to use a certain piece of evidence from the court record to identify. Stereoscope time. I'm not entirely sure I follow. Which piece of evidence?
Take that!
I'd like to use this device, my lord, to view the 2 prints stereoscopically.
Oh!
Yes! You've got the bucket last! You can't resist it, can you? You got the crawfied compulsion! You're number 3. What a surprise. Come on, Runo. Let's put the pictures in place and see what this wonderful contraption tells us. There we go. Now look through the eyepiece. There's the box! What? You must identify the location in question for the court counsel. Bingo!
Take that!
Granted, these two prints are almost identical. However, there is one minor discrepancy between them. What? Oh, I can see it now. It's slightly shifted. That box. The single area stands out as being different. The location of this small box. Let me... Wait! Unbelievable! By Jove, you're right. How extraordinary. Hang on, I gotta take... That's the gift that keeps on giving this entire episode. What this tells us is very simple. Mr. McGilded's small box was indeed not stolen from Windibanks on the night in question. However, there can be no doubt that somebody picked up this particular box and then returned it to its place on the shelves. Are you suggesting the small box originally deposited by Mr. McGilded is in fact... Yes, the very small box I just identified in those photographic prints.
Objection!
Mindless guesswork. What if it was? So a box was moved on the shelf. Nothing was stolen, which means quite simply, nothing has changed. That may be true, but it still changes everything. It changes everything. I believe this changes everything about the case. How can that possibly be? The crucial point is the fact that what was moved was a small box. In other words, we have to consider what might have been inside that box. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that we need to examine that box as soon as possible. A vital piece of evidence is sitting on the shelves at Windibanks as we speak.
Objection!
That won't be necessary. Some little box belonging to a man who died 2 months ago can't possibly be relevant to this trial. The court does not uphold your objection, Lord Van Zeeks. Bailiff, arrange for an officer to go to Baker Street at once. Obtain the small box in question and bring it back here for further examination. We should have a report within half an hour. I think perhaps we should recess for a short while until the evidence is brought forth. To be hoodwinked by such a farce. Disappointing. I beg your pardon, Lord Van Zeeks. This is nothing but a smoke screen, a Nipponese specialty, it would seem. What are you trying to say? My learned friend has persisted with the same line of reasoning from the very beginning, that this witness's intent was to steal an article belonging to Mr. McGilded from the pawnbrokery. Yet common sense tells us that none of the articles have been value enough to be worth stealing in the first place. Exactly! It would be beyond absurd to break into a place for the purpose of stealing such commonplace property. If your lordship recalls, Mr. McGilded perished 2 months ago, immediately after the conclusion of this trial. A trial in which he was found not guilty. A trial in which it was established he was the upstanding member of society, his reputation implied, in fact. So I propose a toast to my learned friend and his most insightful defense. The articles this upstanding member of society pawned were entirely ordinary. A black overcoat that just happened to have a music box disc in one of its pockets, and a small box. I assure you, I wouldn't accept even if the man tried to make a gift of such things to me. Oh, I wouldn't be too sure about that. You know, that does make a rather lot of sense. It's not as if it was gold or jewels, is it? For goodness knows Mr. McGilded was rich enough. But you can't deposit such cash at a pawnbrokery. I'm quite certain of that. The prosecution's argument is undeniably compelling. It is incumbent on the defense now to bolster its arguments. To explain what possible significance these commonplace articles penned by this fine citizen could have. We'll do that in the next video.